Hello everyone, this is VII and I'm back with another video for you. So today's video is about the lesson plan on the chapter called 3 questions from the NCERT Book of English for class 7. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel where I provide lesson plans for social science and English and also contents related to VII. So without any further ado, let's begin. So the lesson plan starts with this very first part, which is called the identification of data. So what you have to do in this section is that you have to mention the name of the school, subject, lesson, class, number of students, name of the textbook, the duration of the class, and your own name. Next we come to the general objectives, and I'm going to read the 5 of them that I have here in case you don't understand my handwriting. Okay, the first one is to enable the students to understand spoken English. Second, to enable the students to speak English correctly with correct pronunciation and stress. Third, to enable the students to read English correctly. 4, to enable the students to write English correctly. 5th, to enable the students to know the structure of grammar. 6th, to enable the students to develop their creativity and power of imagination. Next, you have to write about the teaching aids. So there are 2 kinds of teaching aids. The first one is general teaching aids and the second one is specific teaching aids. So the examples of general teaching aids are blackboard, chalk, duster, pointer, and textbook. The examples of specific teaching aids are, here I have written a chart showing the main parts of the lesson. But in your case, if it is something different, then you can write about that. And the next part is introduction. So for this part, you have to make 4 columns, 1 for STEP, for assume previous knowledge, for teacher's activity, and pupil's activity. Under assume previous knowledge, it is written that it is assumed that the pupil have some previous knowledge about the topic. Under pupil's activity, it is written that after entering the classroom, the teacher will arrange the class properly, and then in order to motivate the students, the teacher will ask some questions to them. Under pupil's activity, it is written, students will try to give the answers to the questions. Questions are as follows. Number 1, what do you gain from school? Number 2, who gives you knowledge in school? Number 3, what does the teacher do? Just remember, you have to write all of these questions under this section of teacher's activity. All the answers you have to write under this section of pupil's activity, and you have to write each answer against each question. So answer number 1 is knowledge, number 2 the teacher, number 3 the teacher teaches. Next we come to the part called the announcement of the topic. So here I have written, the teacher will then announce the topic before the students in the class as, under inverted comma, now we are going to discuss the lesson 3 questions. The teacher will write the name of the topic on the blackboard and tell the students to open their respective books and notebooks, inverted comma close. Next comes the presentation, and for this section you have to make 3 columns for STEP, teaching point, specific objectives, teacher's activity, pupil's activity, and learning outcomes each. So let's start with the teaching point. Under teaching point, I have written about the author. Under specific objectives, I wrote, the students will know about the author. So this actually means we are going to start the lesson by introducing the children to the author, by teaching and explaining them something about the author. I will come to teacher's activity in a while, but first let's see what's written under pupil's activity. Pupils will listen carefully, and under learning outcomes, it is written, pupils will be able to acquire information about the author. Now let's get back to teacher's activity. So under this section of teacher's activity, it is written, now the teacher will discuss about the author. Leo Tolstoy is a Russian writer who is regarded as one of the greatest authors of all time. He received nominations for the Nobel Prize in Literature and Nobel Peace Prize. The next teaching point is model reading. So under specific objective, it is written, the students will be able to develop correct pronunciation and listening skills. Under teacher's activity, the teacher will read the chapter. Under pupil's activity, pupils will listen carefully. Learning outcomes, Pupils will be able to read the chapter with correct pronunciation. Next comes loud reading. So under specific objectives, it is written, they will be able to read the chapter with correct pronunciation. Under teacher's activity, now the teacher will ask 3 or 4 students to read the chapter loudly. Under pupils activity, pupils will read the chapter loudly. Under learning outcomes, they will be able to read the chapter with correct pronunciation. Next comes silent reading, that is the next teaching point. So under specific objectives, it is they will be able to read the chapter. Under teacher's activity, teachers will ask the pupil to read the chapter loudly. Sorry, it should be silently. Yeah, sorry, my mistake. Under pupils activity, pupils will read silently. Under learning outcomes, they will be able to develop silent reading habits. Next we come to word meaning. So under specific objective, it is written, the students will be able to know new words and their meanings. The teacher's activity is that now the teacher will write some difficult words and their meanings on the blackboard and ask the students to write them on their copies. Under pupils activity, it is said that the pupils will write the words and their meanings in their respective notebooks. The learning outcome says that they will be able to know new words and their meanings. The first word meaning I have inserted here is council. So council is a group of people chosen to give advice or to make rules. Next, counselors, members of the council. Next, hermit, a person who lives alone and leads a simple life. The next teaching point is explanation. So under the specific objective, it's written, pupil will be able to know the theme of the chapter. I will get to teaching activity in a while, but first let's move on to pupils activity. So under pupils activity, it says the students will listen attentively and the learning outcome is they will be able to know the theme of the lesson. Back to teaching activity, it says now the teacher will explain the theme of the chapter. The story takes the form of a parable and it concerns a king who wants to find the answers to what he considers the 3 most important questions in life. He consults wise men, promising a large sum to anyone who could answer those questions. But their answers were too diverse and did not satisfy the king. The next teaching point is questioning, and the specific objective here is they will be able to give answers. As for teacher's activity, now the teacher will ask a few questions to evaluate the students. For pupils activity, pupils will try to answer. The learning outcome will remain the same, so please check out the learning outcome that I have mentioned for the first point. It's going to be the same. Since this is the part where you have to be asking questions to the students after the explanation, so I have included 5 questions here and I'm going to read them out for you. The first question is, why did the king want to know answers to the 3 questions? And the answer is written alongside it under the section of pupils activity. So the answer is, the king wanted to know answers of the 3 questions because he wanted to be a successful ruler. The second question is, whose advice did the people say would be important to the king? And the answer is, people suggested to seek advice of counselors or the doctors or the soldiers. Question number 3, did the wise men win the reward? The answer is, no, they did not win the reward. Question number 4, why was the king advised to go to the magician? The answer is, one must look into the future and only magicians can tell the future. The last question, question number 5 is, why did the wise men not win the reward? The answer is, they did not win the reward because all of them came up with different answers and the king was not satisfied. And lastly, we come to the part which is called the closure. This is the part which actually comes after you're done with all the explanation and the questioning. So here you have to make 3 columns, 1 for step, 1 for teacher's activity and 1 for pupils activity. So under teacher's activity, you have to write, teacher will briefly summarize the poem and write the main points on the blackboard. I will read the next paragraph of the teacher's activity later, but first let's read out what's there under the pupils activity. It is, pupils will learn carefully and try to answer the questions. Now back to the second paragraph of the teacher's activity. It is, the lesson talks about life experiences. A wise man bestows on the king. The dilemma of the king was given a thought by various councils who shared their vision, although it was a futile effort from their side, as they failed to convince the king. He then reached out for a seer, a hermit who enlightened him with a real life experience. The next paragraph on the teacher's activity. The teacher will ask one or two questions to the students. The first question, what is the moral of the story? 3 questions. The answer is, the story explores the theme of wisdom, acceptance, kindness, and forgiveness. Question 2, who is the antagonist in 3 questions? The answer is, the antagonist is the gatekeeper. Next, the teacher will give some homework to the students. So you have to make a part for homework, and it says, now the teacher will give homework to the students. And against it, under the column of pupils activity, you have to write, pupils will note down the homework. So the homework that is given here is a question. It is said, why was the king advised to go to magicians? So that was the homework, and after that it's written, after thanking the class, the teacher will clean the blackboard and leave the classroom. And that's it for the video. This video ends right here, and this is how you should end your lesson plans. So thank you so much for watching. I hope if you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll be bringing you more videos related to VII. So until then, take care. I'll see you next time.